Hello everybody, I'm the Managing Director, as Paul says. I'm a geologist, I'm a founding director, and I'm also an investor in the resource industry. Now, with my resource industry hat on, I am absolutely positive that I'm perfectly aligned with you other investors here in that I want to have a stake in a junior company that is about to make a game-changing discovery. And so the question is, does Traka offer that opportunity? I'll tell the story, you make up your own mind on it. The disclaimer, you can read it in your own time. And I'm going to talk about two projects that we're currently working on. Mount Cattlin, I'll give you some of the details following. West Australia, Greenstone Belt, fantastic location, currently drilling two very deep holes, kilometre depths into a very big, exciting system. We'll finish that program this week. Then tomorrow I head up to our second project, which is north of Mount Isa. We're drilling for base metals there. We hope to start that program in July. I'll give you the details again a little bit. And so just here's some of our vital statistics. We've been around a little while. We only raise enough cash to keep us busy. We're also working through nearly $500,000 worth of government grants. The West Australian government like what we're doing and have given us money. The Queensland government like what we're doing. And we can operate like this because we have some old hands in this game. Josh Pitt, my chairman, you will know him well, I'm sure. Do your homework. He's a big hitter with lots of successes. I've got a few under my own belt. So we're old hands at this game, and of course we're active now in Traka, and Traka is going to be our next success. That's what we're busy on. So let's talk about Mount Cattlin. Now here's some of the, just a mud map. So the little green, the green box is our tenure. I had that tenure in the IPO, Traka IPO. And next door to it, you'll see the Mount Cattlin lithium mine, which used to be called Galaxy, now it's called Elcam. And that's 500 metres from our boundary. That satellite image is about 2 years old, and that big pits of theirs is just creeping towards us. I dealt, those red dots in that green box is the cluster of gold mines, a dozen old gold mines, turn of the century stuff, very rich, small, separate. And why I pegged it originally, I pegged it for its gold and copper potential. And the lithium project was next door. We've never owned that. But the years ticked by. This project never went anywhere because I dealt it into Galaxy. They wanted to consolidate their holding around the mine. But about 2.5 years ago, because they hadn't done any exploration, I dissolved the joint venture, and I agreed that they could have any lithium that was ever found, nothing to date, and everything else had to come back to Traka. So now I've got the gold, I've got the copper, and turns out we got a bit of rare earths as well, and I'll expand on that. We're on Highway 1, the Ravensthorpe Township is 1 kilometre to the south. There's another company next door to us drilling out a gold-copper resource. Now what we did when we went back in is we flew magnetics and we immediately located this round, there's a elliptical yellow line you'll see there, it's a 3.5 kilometre ellipse, and we weren't expecting that. We found that this is typical of a very large intrusive type system, perhaps a porphyry body. And we started drilling some of the old mines. And that wasn't rocket science. You just go underneath the old mines, drill, and you get intersections. And I immediately drilled two of the dozen mines. One's called Maori Queen, one's called Thurda, and put resources on it because I want to convert that exploration lease into a mining lease. And under the Mining Act, we need to do that. But I just drilled them to about 70 metres. There's a dozen of these, and we drilled a few of them, and we confirmed that they all carry on. But we also understood that this cluster of mines had a unifying geological theme. geological setting, that they're all part of this very large intrusive complex. We got these weird alteration patterns, skarns and phenite, and I'll explain phenite a little bit later on. Phenites are is an alteration cooked rock that is typical of carbonatite intrusives. Carbonatites are the sources of a rare earth. Now, what are we doing with rare earths when we've got this copper and gold mine? So we had to find out about that. And but we thought, no, nobody will thank us and the market will not support us drilling out those gold mines. We can do that. It's there. It's the underlying value to our project down there. But we thought, let's go for the heart of the system. We know we're in a big, rich, or hopefully rich, but in a big mineralised system, and we should look. So we flew some more geophysics, and those three shadows that you can see there are what we believe to be cores of this intrusive system. Now, they're projected to surface. They're roughly about 500 metres down. And so we stuck a hole into two of those, and I'll just show you that on a cross-section. That's number one shadow there at depth. We are drilling sort of around Ellendale. Ellendale grafter, that's the surface stuff. We can drill that anytime. I need $15, $20 million to put a resource on that. And we'll get hundreds and hundreds of thousands of ounces from what we can tell. But there's no point. It's not going to be the game changer. We're talking about game changers. But what we drilled is number one. And we also went and drilled number three. Now, we'll have that program finished this week. Okay, now rare earths, where's all this fit into the picture? Go back to this intrusive system. So when we started seeing evidence for rare earths in our drilling for gold and copper, we thought, well, if there's rare earths and there's carbonatite intrusives in this package, it's a complex package, we must see it in the soils. So I immediately went and re-assayed previous work done we did for geochemistry on gold and copper. And blow me down, we got this rare earth soil anomalies, which is more or less confirmation that there's rare earths in our intrusive system. So those yellow lines, those yellow dotted lines you see there is the completion of a air core program which will test the clay component. I'm talking the top 20 metres of the oxidised stuff on top of the intrusive. That was finished a month ago. We'll get the results, you know, in a month, 2 months' time, depending on how quickly the lab turn around our things. So that's interesting. So we're going to have the clay component. There's a lot of activity around us in the clays at the moment with rare earths. And of course, the rare earths, we've come the other way around. You know, the cynics amongst us say, oh, we've turned rare earths into a gold copper project into a rare earth project. It's not like that at all. It just happened like this. Of course, we're very happy about it. We'll take whatever we can get. But so there's a lot happening there. And now I'm going to go on to our other project, which is the one I'm going to tomorrow. We got frozen out of this project by COVID 3 years ago. So we had developed targets on what we call SEDEX. These are the Century, MacArthur River, big flat-lying copper, lead, zinc rich targets. They're huge scale, and we're in that neck of the woods. MacArthur River's to the north, Century's to the south. We're in the middle where the underlying rock, the rocks that host Mount Isa come up to the surface, and we got the South Nicholson Basin lapping up onto it on the south side, and the MacArthur River Basin lapping it onto the north side. And we're in the middle on structures where we know there's mineralisation. We developed the targets same time. We never got a chance to finish the job. Wet season came. We need to put diamond drill hole tails on targets, and we're going to go and drill 4 of those targets scheduled for July. And in the intervening time between our last work, the Geological Survey, who've been doing a lot of work in that area, reinterpreted the tectonics and the geological setting, and they have shown that the work that we did ties in perfectly with the Burnett Rift Zone. which is a fantastic setting, and it ties in perfectly with what we were finding 3 or 4 years ago. And here you'll see that picture there. You'll see the Fish River Fault Zone, which is a major mineralised structure, goes for hundreds of kilometres. And then those northeast trending lines, they are actually grabens. That's where the sedimentary sequence is breaking up and slumping into the rift. Now, each one of those structures are conduits for mineralised hydrothermal fluids to come up, and we are testing them. So if you look at Sanctuary and the others, there's always a feeder somewhere. So we're looking at this very complex structural setting. There's a big jog in the Fish River Fault Zone. We've got the Calvert Fault. We've got the Gorge Creek Fault. We flew EM. It picks up the pyrite carbonaceous shale units that host the copper, lead, zinc, bit of cobalt in that system as well. And we found Hercules, which you can see on this thing. Hercules, we started drilling. We needed to get to about 350 metres. The drill rig ran out of oomph at about 290. So we're not far off the top of the target. We're going to pop a diamond tail on that in July. That's what we're scheduling. And we'll do the others at the same time. Now, Hercules, you can see, sits on a northeast trend, which if you extend, and that interpretation's from our geophysics work, and then confirmed by the Geological Survey, if you extend that 30 kilometres to the east, you run into a resource called Walford Creek, owned by Aon. And that's not a coincidence. So we're on the same graben ramp. So we're pretty bullish about that. That's, again, another game changer. We'll be there in July, and it'll take us about a month to drill it, and then a few more months again to get results. So we've got a company that's got a lot happening. Now, in the process, a bit like Mount Catlin, we started picking up high-value rare earths, and there's an unconformity style of rare earth, which is new. You know, it's happening in WA, but we looked at where the opportunities were, and we're able to, because of our experience and presence on the ground, we're able to immediately stitch up all the opportunity in the immediate area, abutting our existing tenements for rare earths. It's unconformity rare earth, there's kilometres of it. We have some samples that go up to 2,600 odd ppm rare earths. We didn't understand it, but we now know that it sits on unconformities. We know now that rare earth is mobile and goes like the copper and the lead and the zinc, goes along the conduits and goes into these unconformities. Because we're sitting on this ramp, the unconformities are exposed. So we've got a lot of that. We've now got tens of kilometres with some very positive and good host rocks sitting in our package, and now that will be added to the portfolio of activity that we'll do into the future. Now, because the rare earths is such a new phenomena, if I could put it that way, in Australia, you know, this is a picture back down in West Australia. You've got Mount Catlin just showing you where that is. You look at some of the other companies working rare earths. A lot of it was for clay hosted. Now, we already know from our activity around Mount Catlin, it sits where we are as well. We can't quantify it yet, but it sits there. So I looked for opportunities along the Albany-Fraser, where a lot of this activity is, for other rare earths, and we picked up what we now call Cranbrook. Now, Cranbrook was picked up last week or the week before, very recent, so, and it's going through permitting and grant. But we've got a neighbour there who's already working on a carbonatite target. So we've added that to our portfolio, so we're very busy. We've got a lot of news flow coming. And so if you like to play and join us in sort of company maker type activity, which is what I'm focused on, I'm getting older, I need runs on the board quick. I'm not drilling out resources, I haven't got time. You will never get the same leverage you get from a big discovery. Listen to what Hedley said this morning. That's the way it works. It's happened for us before. We think we've got a fair chance of doing the same this time. Thank you.